10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Elon Musk once said to me when we were walking through SpaceX, they will always laugh at you just before they applaud. Who do we admire today? Elon Musk, Larry Page, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, Henry Ford, Walt Disney. Every single one of these people were publicly mocked. Elon's mocked on a daily basis. You've got to be in a position today where you want to make sure you go for stupid goals.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Travis Makes Friends. Today, I'm making friends with Steve SIMS. Now, it's weird for me to say I'm making friends with him now because Steve and I have known each other now for five and a half years. We've hung out in Thailand, different countries, and Vegas a few times, see each other all over the place. And it's been a while. It's been a while. So welcome back to the show, man.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I think we've hung out a bunch, but I think the only other time you were on the show is when you were promoting your last book, which is I think when we first got connected at Thrive through Cole. Yeah, back in 2017. Your first book, Bluefish.
And I think we knew each other. We'd spoken to each other prior to that.
Yeah,
because I remember focusing on our connection at Thrive because I'd got to know you, and I'd got to know, how. A lot of people say a good thing but don't hold their word, and I noticed that you weren't one of them. So I do remember Thrive making a note of staying in contact with you more. So we knew each other before Thrive.
Yeah. I think it was because I was in Cole's mastermind was like one of the first masterminds I ever joined.
Right.
I think you spoke at one of those meetups, like with Caleb Maddox and a couple other people or something. And I spoke at that same one. So Cole did a good job of like helping people in the group get up in front of people. And I had a big background in speaking, just never in a business context. So that was one of the first like business talks I ever gave. And I think you were at that meetup and Caleb Maddox was there. A few other people were there. And then I had you on the show and then we were backstage. I won the affiliate contest for getting people to come to Thrive. And so, the backstage and then hanging out with Brad Lee back there and stuff. And then you came up, we started talking a little bit more and it was like, hey, we should do something together. And then a few months later, we find ourselves in Thailand.
Yeah. Which is not a bad place to find yourself.
No.
Running around a tuk-tuk in Pattaya.
Not at all. That's right.
Phuket, that was it.
It was in Phuket. Yeah. But I remember you jumped on that opportunity because you lived in Thailand for a while. You've lived all over the place. Of all the places you've lived, what's the best one?
Where I am now.
Where you are now?
Because I think I was always searching. And I was always, searching is a frustrating and aggravating and rewarding thing, but in that order and at that percentage. I think as a youngster I was always trying to find where I could kind of fit in when, let's be honest, we don't fit in anywhere. So it had me aggravated in England and I got this opportunity in Hong Kong and I took this opportunity and I got fired and then I stayed in Asia and I moved down to Thailand and then I ended up in Switzerland and then Palm Beach and now in LA. But we were talking about it the other day, me and my wife. We live up in the hills just outside of Malibu where there's no one near us. But we got loads of mountains. Most of the time, we got sunshine.
You're right.
I think we are 6 minutes from the ocean. So,
Can't beat that.
It ain't too shabby.
Yeah.
And I think we're really happy then. We've been there for nearly 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is the longest we've ever been anywhere. So I think we've got to a point now in our 50s, and thank God a lot of people search forever and never find it. But I think we're very happy now. We adopt too many dogs and we just love living up in the hills and seeing no one.
And riding motorcycles.
Ride motorcycles a lot. It's my...
there's not too many other places. I'm not a motorcycle rider myself, but I assume there's not too many other places in the world that probably have better places to ride than where you are.
No, you're right there. Southern California, and right in this midsection of California, as some of the roads that, Mulholland, the Rockstar, Neptune's, PCH, Angel's Crest. These are names where bikers all over the world now are salivating, and they're my backyard.
Right.
But the funny thing is people get very confused with why motorcycling is such an addiction and so beautiful for me. Is it's one of the only places in the planet I can disconnect. I can't give you a lift. I can't have a conversation with you. I can't have a phone call. I can't check a text or an email. Like I flew over here. I was texting on my flight.
Right.
You know, you're chatting with but on a bike, you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think today, especially as entrepreneurs, we need to have conversations with ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to be in a place where we're just walking down the ocean, running, jogging, martial art, whatever, where you've disconnected from the planet to have you time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't do that. And for me, I love being on a motorbike. I've got a gig in San Diego in a couple of weeks' time, and I can't wait to go on it and ride.
Nice.
Because I get 2.5 hours, 3 hours just riding. And I'm going to take detours up hills across the ocean.
Right.
Just have me time and have a conversation with me.
Yeah, it's incredible how often like the biggest and best ideas come out of alone time rather than like executive team brainstorming sessions, right? There's just something about being able to connect with yourself. And frankly, a lot of the times, even if it's not a better idea in terms of maybe the rest of the world or what maybe other people might get from you, it might be what you need in order to be able to connect back with yourself and pursue something that maybe you should be pursuing that you haven't been because you've been letting too many other people tell you what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. And then you get alone and you kind of go like, actually, I kind of like doing that. Or actually, I don't like doing that at all. Why am I doing this? I feel like I've had a lot of those moments recently where it's just like you get in the rat race and you get caught up in like making sure that you're excelling and you're producing and you're doing more and more and more. And then you get some alone time. It's like, I don't really even like 60% of the things that I've been doing lately. It's like, no wonder I've been a little bit stressed or no wonder I've been not enjoying this, last phase of my life. It's just like I'm disconnected from what I feel fires me up. And which really, frankly, is what's driving a lot of, we're here at Proprietors Reserve in Vegas right now filming this, and we're getting set up for our first dinner party tonight. And that's like really the major push for doing all these in-person interviews, for getting a beautiful space like this, for bringing a bunch of people in for a dinner party and filming the whole thing. Like all of those ideas came from just alone time and recognizing that I've been moving further away from the things that I enjoy doing rather than pursuing the things that I enjoy doing, even if maybe other things could, take some more of my attention. But if you're not careful, you'll just always give other things your attention.
That's why I absolutely loved COVID. Now, I know a lot of people may go, people died. Look, I'm sorry for the pain.
Yeah.
Okay, there's obviously no excuse for that. And, my heart goes out to any family that lost a member. COVID was the greatest time of my life because as entrepreneurs, we're moving at 200 mile an hour.
Yeah.
We don't want to slow down because our competition is also moving at 200 mile an hour. And it's like trying to change the tires on a speeding vessel, speeding vehicle. And all of a sudden COVID hit and no one could do anything. And it gave us that time to go, am I happy doing what I'm doing? I actually shut 2 businesses down in COVID.
Oh,
both travel businesses because I felt I'd gone as far as I could and I'd done as much as I wanted to do in that work, and I shut them down.
Yeah.
Okay. COVID had nothing to do with it. Me, my love, my heart wasn't in it anymore.
Yeah.
And also I got time to kind of really look at what I was doing. And I've been married for, God, like 400 years, but I think it's like 37 years of my life. My first girl, my first kiss, met at 16. Been with her forever. I knew I loved her, but I didn't know how much I liked her. And I got to spend every single day, couldn't travel, couldn't fly, couldn't go anywhere. And so then you got to ask yourself those questions. Am I doing what I like doing?
Yeah.
Is this where I want to spend my energy? The people, and you suddenly look at your clients and you go, do I like all of my clients?
Yeah.
And I realized, no, there were some I didn't. They were pricks. Right. They had a lot of money, but they were pricks.
Right.
So I started getting rid of some of the clients. I'm like, hang on a minute, I need to do this for my life.
Yeah.
And just the amount of spring cleaning I did during COVID, it was so therapeutic, so beautiful. And I've always tried to be me, unfiltered, unapologetic. This is it. If it works for you, great, come on board, let's play. If it doesn't, move along, we'll be fine.
Also great. Yeah.
But I was actually able to get clearer during COVID about what motivates and excites me and what scares me that I need to be doing more of and what I can't do very well. So I need to recruit people to do. So I absolutely love that. So I think the whole point of communication and connection really starts with you.
Yeah.
And for anybody out there that's not jogging, rowing a boat, painting, doing martial arts, doing something where the phone is not in their back pocket, is physically away from them, and the only conversation they're having is with them in that time, then they need to find it if they're not.
Absolutely. And get to the point where you're okay with being at that. I remember, the reason I say this, I remember I was like 20, 21, 22. I was just getting started out of college. And this is back when I was doing door-to-door sales. And a mentor at the time was like, I some of the best ideas that I get come from me spending time alone. He's like, and when I say alone, I'm by myself and I'm not touching my phone. I'm not watching TV. I remember thinking like, I don't think I could spend that sounds boring. That sounds miserable just to like be by myself, like not hanging out with friends, like not watching TV, not playing video games, not doing anything that engages me. Like, what am I going to do? And I think it like self-diagnosing now, looking back, I think that it was just a lack of practice at the time, frankly, because I was just a young kid. I never got taught how to think for myself. It was just, I got taught what to think, not how to sit there and think through problems. So I think it was just a lack of practice, first of all, but also I think it was a lack of vision. Because if you don't have a vision or a dream, then what are you thinking about when you're by yourself? If there's nowhere that you're going to, if you're just thinking about the immediacy and like playing video games, then you just want to find yourself playing video games or hanging out with friends or getting a beer. So it's just like, or it's lastly, and hopefully not this one, but more like you're just depressed and there's something about yourself that you're not okay with. You're behaving in a way that makes you not okay with spending time with you. You know what I'm saying? Which is a much deeper problem that you would definitely need to tackle. But either way, that's why I say that the attempt to spend time by yourself will reveal a lot of those things, because if you literally find yourself being attacked by your own thoughts because you know that you're maybe behaving in a way that you personally disagree with, but you keep doing this behavior, you don't want to spend time with yourself because you start beating yourself up, and nobody likes being beat up by anybody, let alone themselves. So they constantly have a distraction on. I got to listen to music. I got to watch a movie. I got to play a video game. I got to be texting or talking to somebody or on FaceTime. There's so many distractions that if we don't take purposeful time to make sure that, hey, like it's a checkup with you and you, like, hey man, are we good? Am I behaving in a way that like makes me proud to be me? Can I spend time with myself? So if you're, listening or watching, next time you go for a drive, 20, 30 minutes, if you cannot sit in a car and drive for 20 or 30 minutes with zero music, zero podcasts, zero anything on, it's probably an indication that there's something not right. Either you're not okay with something that you're doing, or there's nothing that you're working toward. There's no dream, there's no future, there's no vision, I don't even know how often now I get lost in my thoughts, and my wife kind of has to pull me back in and be like, hey, you there? Because I'm picturing this version of life that's so awesome, and it's just so vivid to me that I spend a lot of time there. You know what I mean? Where I'll be on a drive from Vegas to LA and forget to turn on music for 4 hours. It's just like me by myself, hanging out with me, thinking about where we're going to be able to take the family in a few years.
And it doesn't have to be in silence. And I'm sure I'm going to get locked up for this next statement. But if someone could actually put a camera in my helmet, they would see me talking to myself. Because here's a funny thing, and here's an example. And you've been to a lot of masterminds, okay? And I remember when I used to start going to masterminds, of course we've been to thousands now, so we're comfortable. Yeah. But in the early stages, you would walk in and you'd have imposter syndrome, or you would defend yourself that you're being there. Half of the time we don't do things because we listen to the wrong part of our mind that tells us that we can't do it. And the old line, if you tell yourself you can't do it, you're right. So you need to get all of you on board with what you're doing. Now, the amount of times that, and I wrote about this in Bluefishing, that I would be scared to get into an environment because there's this little devil on my shoulder going, Steve,
Yeah.
you're going to be found out.
What are you doing here?
They're going to realize that you don't know, that you're not that smart, that you didn't come from money, as though there's something wrong with all of those things. So you've really got to be able to have that conversation with you to get all of your doubts, to get all of your insecurities on board and go, hey, guys, I know we don't know what we're doing. That's why we're going to try it. So we can get education, we get everyone on board. And I literally will talk to myself, especially if I've got an event. Probably one of the biggest things people don't know about me is I'm quite introverted. I play an extrovert very well.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do these things.
Sure.
They've got to move the needle for me.
Right.
And so when I know I've got to do it, I go, well, okay, what do I want out of it? Why am I here? Is it establishing a better relationship? Is it because, I like the people and I can grow with this? Is it I'm promoting a book? Am I just trying to get smarter? But there's got to be a reason. An extrovert will stand on stage, take his clothes off. As long as he's getting a clap, he's happy. Right. But an introvert will go, why am I there?
Right.
What's in it for me? What's in it for the audience? So for me, I believe you've got to get yourself fine-tuned. You've got to ask yourself, what I'm about to do, does it move the needle? And then you've got to have that conversation with yourself to go, right, this is why we're doing it. It's going to make us feel uncomfortable, but hey, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right. Let's go.
I'm sure that had to play into your decision to ultimately leave or shut down Bluefish, right? Because, this is like, so for those watching or listening who may not know the story, let's talk a little bit about Bluefish, and then we'll talk about shutting it down. So tell me how you first got started with this, and if you had like a sentence to describe what you did for people, what would you say?
Wow. Okay. So I always tell people that I wasn't in the business I was in. And that's obviously people can look at you and go, oh, what are you on about? So to give you the short and curlies, for 25 years, I run the world's probably most successful and leading experiential concierge firm. I was retained to get people down in the Titanic with James Cameron, drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, tennis lesson with the greats, walk on stage with favorite rock stars, get married in the Vatican by the Pope. Probably one of the most famous ones is the stories is the guy wanted to have a dinner experience in Florence, and I shut down the Accademia Galleria Museum, which houses Michelangelo's David, set up a table of 6 at the feet of David, and then halfway through that meal, I had Andrea Bocelli serenade him. So I was known as the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with really big checkbooks. But that's not what I did. What I wanted to do was have a conversation with a very successful individual and go, hey, Travis, why are you successful and I'm not? Because I came from being an East London bricklayer, poor, surrounded by a bunch of poor people. I don't want to talk to poor people arrogantly. Why? Because I know what being poor is like, and it's shit. And if you're happy being poor, you're not listening to this podcast. Yeah. The reason you're listening to this podcast is because you're aggravated to get more out of you, out of your substance, out of your solution, and out of your life, and out of your relationships. And that's what I wanted. But I was surrounded by a bunch of broke-ass bikers, and they weren't going anywhere. Yeah. So I needed to have those conversations. If getting you into this club was going to get me to have breakfast with you, hey, I'm in. Yeah. If you want to meet Elton John and then I get to have dinner with you, hey, I'm in. So I was never in the business of the concierge industry. I was in the business of having lunch, dinner, and breakfast with you. Speaking
my language, man. Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah. So along the way, I grew this massive concierge firm that got me doing things that, okay, if it makes you happy, but I've walked on probably every red carpet from Macau to LA. There's not a social calendar event that I've not been involved in over 25 years. I've worked with royalties, kings, dictators, I name it, and I've been part of it. But it wasn't something I wanted. And so when the conversation started drying up, because I'd had them with the Jean-Paul Dejoury, the Elon Musks, the Richard Bransons, the Larry Page, and people that you've never heard of that own things like countries. Had those conversations. And now I'm getting people going, can you get me backstage to meet Taylor Swift? And I'm like, well, for one, I don't want to do it. And for two, you're not that interested in what I have breakfast with. So it suddenly started getting to that period. And so
It started feeling like a job again.
it felt like a bind.
I'm here laying bricks.
Yeah. And people were like, oh, yeah, I know. I would probably on a weekly basis get, hey, can you introduce me to Richard Branson? And my answer would always be the same. Yes, I can. But the question is, why should I?
Yeah.
You know? And if someone had something that compelled me, yeah, I'll make the intro. But it just, I just didn't like it anymore.
Yeah.
And so, and by that time, I was already speaking and coaching and training. And with my son, we launched a very successful branding company called SIMS Media. I didn't need that anymore because I was having those conversations. So we were taking everything that we learned over those 25 years. And then I went, let's stop it. It's been fun.
Yeah.
You know, the end of the journey, let's stop it. And we were getting people going, oh, I need to be in this chair, or, you know, I need to meet Mark Burnett because he needs to have me on his TV show, or I need so-and-so because he's going to want to endorse me. We also got a lot of women that would contact us going, look, I'll pay you this because I need to be in that party because I need to get married. I'm like, are you kidding? That's what you want?
Yeah.
So we just suddenly started to get to see a side of the planet that I really didn't like playing with. And
out of alignment with what you like to do.
It wasn't my style.
Sure.
So, you know, we closed out that, and then it was a case of, what do we do now? And of course, when you do what you love, you don't look at it as a job.
Yeah.
And as you know, from Thailand and Thrive and all these other events I've spoken at, I've got a very successful speaking career, a very successful coaching career, very successful branding career. So it was just good timing to go, I don't need that bit anymore.
Yeah.
And when you clear up stuff that you don't want to do, you've now got a chunk of the day to do more of what you do want to do.
Totally. Yeah. Even if it's not something that feeds your bank account. It's like, this just feeds my soul. And I actually like spending time with my family or traveling to this part of the country for a couple of days just because I want to do it and not because somebody's paying me to speak or something like that.
So I've got an answer for that.
Okay.
So the beautiful thing about getting to talk to successful people is you get to understand how they're successful. Most people ask their idea of success with people that aren't successful. It's like the guy that's just sold his car and is now listening to financial advice from Jerry in the bar that's never left a bloody pub.
Yeah.
You know, we listen to the wrong person for the wrong answers. I was getting great advice from monumentally successful people, and they would teach me how what you do is the cause and the reaction. And one of them once said to me, they said, have you ever lost weight by buying a diet book? Now, he wasn't calling me fat, but the point was, no one does. You lose weight from actioning. Therefore, losing weight is a reaction to the action. If you want to make money in your bank account, don't stare at it. Do stuff that you can do easy, continually. Now, when you go for a walk down the beach with your family, when you're doing things that aren't there to make you money, it regenerates you and makes you a finer tuned person. So that when you dip your toe back in the business world, you're a fulfilled individual.
Yeah.
And you become more impactful and more powerful and more magnetizing to people that want to be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a great believer that you may not be making money, and I know you're a great family man. You know, I know about you and your wife. I know you're very loyal and you know, just there in that moment. But that makes you a better person that people want to be with. So while you're making no money walking down the strip or down the park or playing the field or going on holiday, when you're back in that moment, you're more of the person that people want. So I think it's great. You really need to spend more of your life doing stuff that you want to do so that people want to be part of you.
So what about this book? Is this something that you wanted to do? You felt like this was...
Oh, God. Absolutely.
I was going to say, so yeah, Bluefishing come out, good success, sold tens of thousands of copies.
Yeah.
Right.
Bluefishing went nuts. And I was stunned.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't have sold a copy. And it should have been the biggest waste of your time to read it. That's true, and I mean that, and it's upsetting that it sold so well because it was obvious stuff that people were ignoring to do. And
interesting.
Like you put this whole thing on to grow the relationships. Okay. People are picking up a business card and thinking they've got a relationship. They're a friend on Facebook and think they've got a relationship. They see the same person at the seminar every year and think they're in a relationship. They are not. And so Bluefishing came out going, look, when you want to do this, this, and this. And people were like, oh, that's just... And I had billionaire clients that were reading my book going, never thought of that. And I'm like, why not? It's so simple. Why? And they're like, oh, no. People will throw $10,000 at a problem rather than look at why they got the problem in the first place. You know, it's the classic squeaky wheelbarrow.
Right.
You don't use it, but you'll oil the wheel once a year. Never fucking use the thing.
Right.
And so it was that kind of mentality. So I did Bluefishing and it took off. And of course got me all the coaching, all the stuff I did. And then COVID came along. And if you'd have phoned me up a week before COVID and went, hey, Steve, are you going to write a second book? I'd have been like, Travis, shut up. That's lunacy. Because anyone that's writing a book, it's kind of like being interviewed by yourself. And it wipes you out.
Yeah.
You sometimes you're putting this stuff in a book and then you can't sleep that night because you're thinking, whoa, never realized it. It's like therapy, you know? And I remember some days going through stuff and then going, I'm talking about this in the book. I do some of that, but I don't do all. I've got to start doing that again. And I didn't realize I did that. And you don't sleep.
Yeah, interesting.
So when the book came out, and you also get people contacting you from all over the world. Oh, this I did. And yeah, I split up with my wife because it wasn't the relationship that was working. And I'm like, shit. You know?
That's heavy. Yeah.
You know? And so there's all these kind of things. And I had people going, I didn't realize. I had one guy contact me. He said, I realized I didn't have a relationship with my kids.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know you.
Right.
I've never met you.
Like you got that from this book?
Yeah. But he said, I need to focus on my relationships.
Yeah.
Because we know we can download a YouTube video now that will tell us how to build a bridge. There's probably one on there that'll tell you how to do open heart surgery. But there's no video on there that will make the relationship work for you. That's your work. You've got to action it. So Bluefishing came out. It was a beast that I just had to feed. And I didn't want to ever do one again. And then COVID came across. And boy, did I get pissed off at the beginning of COVID. Because how many people did you see jumping on Netflix or jumping on Facebook going, hey, what shall I binge watch on Netflix? How else can I waste my life?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like,
I all of a sudden have this free time, you know, all the one thing that I keep blaming everything in my life on is no longer there. And now that it's no longer there, what I'm going to do, instead of doing action on any of the other things that I've always said I was going to do, if I had the time, I'm going to watch 12 seasons of these 4 shows.
Apart from hair, the only other thing that I can't get is time.
Yeah.
COVID came across and went, SIMS, you're not going to fly anywhere. You're not going to. Now, here's the daft thing. I had a list of people that I wanted to connect with. They weren't going anywhere. Everyone that I hadn't been able to contact for like 10 years, that I'd always wanted to have a conversation with, I was now able to have a conversation with. Within 4 months, my entire list. I don't have a list of people that I wanted to connect with anymore because I managed to do it in COVID. And I'm in COVID going, hey, ladies and gents, we've now got a 9-day week. We got all of this time. Let's see how we can use it. And I remember saying to someone that what's not going to happen, you are going to die. We all know that. We just hope it's not tomorrow, but we're all going to die. We are not going to get someone come down and go, whoa, time out, Steve. Do you remember that 2.5 years you lost out of COVID? Let's start the clock again because you get that back. That's not going to happen. That shit's gone. And I saw all of these people wasting their life and I was enjoying it. And I was walking the dog and I'm having conversations that would last well into the afternoon with my wife. And I'm having conversations with myself, just sitting in the garden, drinking a cappuccino with my dogs going, why didn't I ever implement that? Why am I doing that when A, I'm not qualified to do it. I'll get a VA in the Philippines to do it at $10 a month. Or B, why do it at all? Because I don't even like it. Let's get rid of that. So I started going through it, and I'm not good at being subtle. So I started to put this shit on Facebook. And I said, you asked me what to binge watch from Netflix. You're gone. I'm blocking you from my feed. And someone said to me, you should start writing this shit out a little bit. So I started doing blogs.
Okay.
Bit by bit, it started. And someone said, you need to put this in a book. Now, during COVID, right at the beginning, apart from the binge watchers, there were a lot of people that were screaming the exact same anthem. Oh, COVID, I can't connect with people. Zoom, FaceTime. Let's forget about those for a second. Phones.
Yeah.
Let's forget about those for a minute. Right. I can't connect with people. Do you remember those people going, oh, I can't go down to the gym? When that fat ass wasn't going down to the gym before COVID. Yeah. But it was the period of excuses now.
Right.
Now, we couldn't connect with each other. We couldn't make relationships with each other. But then what happened during COVID? All of a sudden, we started like attacking each other. And the thing that suddenly got invented during COVID, cancel culture. Let's find out something that you did that was inappropriate in 1984, and then let's fuck your career for it.
Right.
Right. You dressed up as a penguin. How insensitive to penguins. Let's screw your career.
Right.
And we did that. Didn't matter if it was truth. We started throwing shit at everyone.
Right.
And we ended up with the gotcha society. Mm-hmm. And people were scared to say something just in case a snippet of it was taken out of context, boomeranged, and is now on TikTok until you die. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, other things happen. Me Too, Black Lives Matter, Asian hate, Trump, all of these things that we needed to have discussions on. We needed to have conversations on. It was healthy enough to have a protest, but who was going to say anything? Who was actually going to remark and have an opinion on it or ask questions? Who was going to look ignorant enough to go, I didn't know there was a problem.
Yeah.
Educate me, because now you look stupid. So now what are we doing? In a time when we are not connecting and communicating, we're now terrified to communicate. So this was pissing me off. If you say something and I don't agree with it, I'm going to go, Travis, I don't understand that opinion. Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
And I want to know where it's coming from so that I can relate to it. Maybe not agree with it, but understand, that's how you got it.
Right.
If you are born in a racist family and you grow up being taught racism, who's to blame? But now we've got the chance to go, hey, your family didn't do the best to you.
Right, right.
You understand that because of those that you love said it, But do you understand why this maybe should be? Yeah. We've got the chance with our words to help each other. But everyone's terrified of social media now, and they're frightened. And that also translates into your dreams. Here's an example. As an entrepreneur, we realize we don't fit in. But how many times, and for anyone watching or listening to this, how many times have you, the listener, sat in your coffee bar, sat in a bar, sadly, sat at a family event like Christmas, birthday, or something like that, and you're chatting with everyone and everything's going well, and you talk about the business that you're in, and you're talking about how you want to scale it, and then you're going to franchise that element, and then you're going to move into this, and then you're going to write a book on it, and you look around everyone around you, and they're looking at you like you've just been, taken over by an alien. Mm-hmm. And they're like, whoa, he's gone mad. He's gone crazy. And you see that it's like a deer in headlights. And you suddenly realize that everyone's staring at you. And all of a sudden, you're faced with only two opportunities. One, walk out of that room, which you don't do. So what do? You go, oh, excuse me, I don't know what I was thinking. Someone must have spiked me trifle. I was having a crazy moment. And you dilute your dreams and aspirations.
Yeah. You become a lesser version of yourself.
You do. But who do we admire today? Elon Musk, Larry Page, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs. Henry Ford, Walt Disney, every single one of these people were publicly mocked. Elon's mocked on a daily basis, but he's ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
But we admire. You've got to be in a position today where you want to make sure you go for stupid goals. And I'll play a little game with it. Did you drive? Have you got a car or something?
Mm-hmm.
What car you got?
I have a 2015 Toyota Camry.
Camry, what is that, an SUV?
No, it's a sedan.
Oh,
Still
it's a sedan.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a car.
Just a car.
I ride bikes. I don't know shit.
Yeah.
All right, do you want a truck?
Yes.
You do? What truck do you
want? Tundra.
You want a Tundra?
No, I have a Tundra.
Oh, you have a Tundra
Yeah,
truck?
So, yeah, both, yeah.
So do you want a new truck?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
What would it be?
Probably Tundra, just the newer, updated version of the Tundra, yeah.
All right, cool. All right. What about the Elon Musk Tesla truck?
I'll take one of those, Cybertruck.
Yeah, the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
That was what it was called.
Yep.
Do you remember seeing it being unveiled?
Yes.
Right, okay. The entire planet watched that.
Yep.
Now, I've used this example on other podcasts. I was being podcasted the other week I did an Australian and I did a Korean one. And both of these people said, yes, the girl in Korea that podcast me, she said, we have push bikes. We don't have cars in the family. She said, but I saw the Cybertruck being unveiled. So Elon grabbed the attention of the planet with this Cybertruck. Let's be blunt. It's kind of a weird looking thing, isn't it?
It is.
Apart from the fact that it's got round wheels, it doesn't have anything else similar to the Tundra truck, does it?
Right.
Okay. Different drivetrain, different look, different composites, everything. He then put up, during the unveiling, the chance for you to buy a slot, a pre-slot, to get a Cybertruck in the future, which I think they've only just started going into construction, haven't they?
Yeah, I haven't seen any on the street for sure. I think they're still pre-production. Yeah.
During that unveiling, every single slot got sold out. So let's break that down for the world of entrepreneurs. He gained the attention of the planet, regardless of where you were, regardless of whether or not you even wanted to buy a truck. He grabbed your attention.
Yeah.
He then sold out every single opportunity to purchase something before he even built a factory to build what he sold. Okay? This is good stuff, yeah? What entrepreneur would not like to be in a position where they sold out every package
before they made it?
Before they made it. But what was the headlines the following day?
Yeah, the Cybertruck didn't hold up when he did the window test or whatever.
The window.
Yeah.
So every single headline mocked him.
Yeah.
For the bulletproof glass didn't work.
Yeah.
Now, let's be blunt. If bulletproof glass is one of the specifics you need when buying a new truck, you got bigger problems.
Yeah, right.
Okay? But that was the news. The society didn't revere him for building something just weirdly different.
Not Elon Musk sells out a futuristic truck in an afternoon.
Yeah, Elon Musk sells out everything in a 2-hour webinar.
Before being built. Yeah.
No, we had to take the piss.
Right.
The society has moved into a amplified, cancerous, toxic environment where anyone that wants to stand up and stand out is there to be ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
But all the superstars today that we would change places with in a heartbeat, Jeff Bezos, Larry Page, Elon Musk, all of these people, they're not listening. They don't care.
Right.
Elon Musk once said to me when we were walking through SpaceX, they will always laugh at you just before they applaud. And it got me aggravated. I wondered if the problem with today's society was the news. Because let's be serious, we assassinated the news during COVID, didn't we? Fake news, everything's fake, fake, all the time. We've just got more news today.
Yeah.
We were shitheads back then. Henry Ford, do you know they actually protested against Henry Ford?
Yeah.
And the reason they protested against him was because that car couldn't go through the woods like the horse did. And Ford's very famous quote, if I listened to the people, I'd have made a faster horse.
Right.
You know? But you can't listen to those people that don't know. You've got to be willing to stand up. You've got to be willing to be laughed at. You've got to go for such an audacious goal that it will be ridiculed. And when people are ready to laugh at you, then you know you're in the right path.
Yeah.
And I thought, just imagine a world where we actually supported ridiculous goals. And we are actually terrified of telling people our ridiculous goal.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I started doing the blog, started doing the memes, ended up going into a book, and I thought, again, I've got 9-day week here.
Yeah.
I ain't going anywhere. I wonder. And so I literally went out to a few people and I went, look, this is what's bothering me. And I'd like to put a book together to show you how the most powerful people in the planet overcome it, how I overcome it, how a bricklayer from London can be communicating with Elon Musk and the Pope. You know, if I can be doing it, shit, you're already out of excuses. Would you like that book? Would you like that help? And I got a lot of people say yes. So I put it out there, and it came out in October this year. Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. And it's doing really, really well. And when I say it's doing really, really well, anyone that's out there thinking that they're going to buy a mansion on the beach by selling a book, you're wrong. That doesn't happen. But the reason and the benchmark that I believe is doing well is the response and the action people are taking from reading it. And I'm getting people literally contacting me with that stupid goal. And I'm loving it because they're daring to dream. And they're like, hang on a minute, I want to be part of the solution to today's problem. And we want more of those solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. You summed it up perfectly, talking about kind of that force of average that's on everybody, you know, the crabs in the bucket of society, where it's just the reason people don't want to support everybody else's goals is because they secretly hope that they fail.
Oh,
because it's such it's a contrast to their lack of willingness to chase after their stupid goals, or maybe even their lack of clarity around, you know, what they even want in life, and just kind of sinking into mediocrity.
What are you willing to settle for?
Yeah.
And are you willing to reduce your standards to meet theirs? Or do you want to keep your high standards and have them come up?
Right.
See, the funny thing about standards is when you have high standards, people actually want to live up to your standards.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend of mine said that, you know, he wanted to change his standards. And he didn't have a lot of money. I said, look, you got to start with you. You know, you got to start with what you're willing to accept. And he always used to go down to the pub. And I said, look, I've seen you down the pub. You look like a piece of shit. You look like a homeless person. You've got to start demanding more of you. So he started going down the pub, and he'd wear like a little polo shirt, or, you know, just a clean pair of jeans, and just look a little bit shut, a nice pair of shiny sneakers. And some of his mates noticed, and in the early stages, they started jeering at him. And he said, you know, it only took a month when all of a sudden, when we started to get we looked sharp. You know, we actually started.
The whole crew started dressing up.
The whole crew started to kind of like move up to his
standard.
There's always got to be one. And that's it. You can be the one.
Right. You could be the one. And if the other people don't ever level up, then that's when you know you got to go find some different people.
In that room, you've done great rooms. You know, you've done masterminds, and you've had people in. And anyone that turns up suddenly realizes that they're always worried because they don't fit in.
Yeah.
And then they realize they were never built to. And so when you go to masterminds, and as I say, me and you go to a lot of masterminds, we go to these because they're Hogwarts.
Right.
We're the weird kids.
Yep, exactly.
And then you get in that room and you go, do you know I'm not weird enough?
Right.
You know?
When everybody's connecting on the family dinners where they're being mocked, you know, and they you know, everybody's got that same story, man. Where it's just like, I'm explaining what I want to do, and then people are like, well, that doesn't sound very realistic. Well, you know, I don't want you to fail. You know, well, you know, you had those same goals when you were a kid. You know, just don't get too wrapped up in the final. You know, it's just like there's so much containment, and then when you go hang out with people who think the same way that you think, you kind of realize like, oh, it's okay to be this way.
I'll give you my Jay story, and I've told this story loads of times. So I came up with a business plan. First time and only time in my life I've ever done a business plan.
Okay.
Right? Ever. So I did this business plan. I spent time on it, and it had graphs and it had pretty pie charts and all this kind of shit in it. And I was speaking to Jay Abraham, and he's a neighbor of mine and a good neighbor to have. And I said, Jay, you need to get involved in this deal with me. It'll make us a fortune very quickly. You need it, yeah. And he's like, well, you know, I'm working on other things, but come on down and share with me your plan. So I went down, I saw Jay, and I gave him this presentation. And I went through this business plan, and it was brilliant. And it had stats and charts and pictures. It was great. And at the end of it, he just looked at me with his little smirk, and he went, "Is that it?" I thought, what do you mean, Jay? I went, "Jay, based on this, we were like X times our money within a month."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and he went, "Well, knowing your enthusiasm, your passion, and your connections, I was just expecting a little more." And I thought, shit. I had literally, as I was building this, I was listening to the wrong people. What we ended up doing was we ended up basically killing that deal, taking like about 5% of what was being offered and trebling what was the outcome going to be in any case. Because we knew that we needed to dream bigger and achieve bigger. And you can only do that when you're willing to go big.
Right.
I'm not saying gamble your house on black, because that's not actually action. That's just praying. That's like buying a lot of lottery tickets.
Right.
But a so-so idea with implementation will always outperform perfection. There's never action.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm a great believer, and Harvey Meisel gave me this one: get going and then get good.
Yeah.
So that was it for me. You've really got to push yourself. Yeah, and that's why I like hanging around with weird kids.
Yeah.
Because we push each other. We realize that, we're sitting, and we've all had this. I've got family now that I don't mind talking to, and I'll tell a few jokes to. But when it gets down to the business, I'll be like, "Joey, we can't talk about business.
Yeah.
You're in your place, I'm in mine."
Yeah.
I had a cousin of mine that was starting a new business, and I sat him down. I think it's like 5 or 6 years ago. I sat him down. I went, "Okay, let's work through," and we mapped it out. And then when I came back from the thing, I'd sent all of this stuff over to one of my team. They put it into a schedule. They sent it over to him, and then I said, follow up with him in a month's time. And they did that for 3 months running, and he was busy on other stuff. And then about a year later, I bumped into him again at another family event. And I didn't want to have the conversation with him.
Right.
He said, "Oh, Steve, yeah, cyber. I've been so busy." "On what?"
Right.
"Well, this came up, that came." "Oh, great. Okay, so we got the excuses out."
Totally.
He's like, can we go out?" "No. I gave you me. I gave you one of my team.
Yep.
And I wrote you out the plan. 3 months you had us. I didn't charge you.
Right.
But you get, and so now you want me to waste more time? What I will do is you pay me." And I said, "You pay me and I'll do it with you." And he was like, "You're going to charge your family?" I said, "Well, when I didn't, you did fuck all with it."
Right. Exactly.
I'm just hoping that if you put skin in the game now, you'll be willing to do something.
When you pay attention.
Exactly. And he obviously didn't. So, and guess what? He didn't pay. He spread it that I was selfish and up myself. And he still works for the same person that he worked for back those 6 years later.
Of course. That's how it goes. At the end of the day, you can't execute for people.
No, you can't.
And that's what one of the worst parts to me about coaching or running masterminds is that one expectation that people come to. Now, before I work with people, I make sure that they know. I'm like, look, I'm pretty confident in the things that I've learned to date. And if you execute these things, you will get X results.
Yeah.
But it's on you to execute these things. Do not come to me in 4 months from now and be like, well, you said I would get these results and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, right. But you have to actually do shit. I can't do everything for you. The knowledge is one part of the equation. Is it an important part? Yeah, it's an important part. And the reason you pay a coach is so you don't have to take 10 years to figure out that knowledge. You get the knowledge in a couple of months, but the execution is still required. Yeah. Regardless, either way, you're still going to have to do a little bit of work here. And it makes it so much more difficult with family or close friends or whatever, because you want to help. It's a genuine desire to see people succeed, especially those that are closest to you or people you share blood with. You just want it. You want them to do well.
And that's sometimes the downside is those ones that are closest to you are usually the ones that you can't help.
Right. And they have this weird. They have this weird, I don't know if you've experienced this, kind of like a weird bias when it comes to you. because they've known you since you were the kid running around London. Yeah, right. Yeah. They know that version of you.
Yeah.
And so like in their mind, there's almost this like this aversion to listening to what you have to say, because they really at their core still look at you as that version of you, even though you've surpassed that. Like I've definitely experienced that, where people that are coming into my world have more immediate respect for me than even people who've known me for a really long time, because they knew this previous version of me.
There was a
and
contempt.
they can't, exactly. Yeah. There's a little bit of contempt, and they can't equate who I was with who I am. But people coming into my world are like, this guy's great, because they only see who I am.
It does happen.
Yeah.
But you can't run in shackles.
Right.
So you've really got to realize that it is possible for you to outgrow your room, and you've got to move on. I remember a while back, and I was actually talking about this conversation this morning on the phone. I remember years back, I had a bit of money, and it wasn't a great deal of money, but for me at the time, I was like, well, I'm doing quite well. And I was thrown an event, and I had everyone in that room. The poorest guy in there was making like 10 mil, And I remember sitting at this table, and I was just, for some reason, I was in a downer. It wasn't a case of, I'm not good enough to be in this room, because it was my event.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
So, these people are paying me to be at my event. But I was like, oh shit, all of these people are way more successful, so much richer than me. Oh my God. There was this annoyance in me. And there was one of them that I knew very well. And so I was a little bit more open. And he said to me, you're a little bit down. What's up with you? And I went, I work hard. I work damn hard. And I'm in this room, and, I don't want this to come across as contempt or, just feeling resentment. But everyone in this room is far superiorly smarter, educated, wealthier, successful than me. And he just looked and he smirked and he went, well, isn't that the room you want to be in? Shit, yes, it is.
Damn it.
Literally just within a heartbeat, I'm like, this is the room.
Right.
So when you're in that room of the contempting friends, that's the time you got to leave those friends.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one. And there are people out there, and there are people still that are on my Facebook feed that I knew, that I used to roll around with, that every now and then there'd be a little snidey comment about, oh, I remember when I bought you gas because you couldn't pay for gas to get your bike home.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And
so
where's this going? But like, there's some boys that I still knock every time I'm back in London. There's a couple of boys that I'll always hook up with. We'll go out. We'll drink. I'll always pay for the bar tab. And I've told them this, okay? I'm paying for the bar tab that night. I'm paying for the food. Because you eat at shitty places, and I like good whiskey and I like good food.
Yeah.
So now that we got this out of the way, that whenever I'm there, I'm paying. You just make sure you bring the inappropriate jokes.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
But there's other boys that won't go drinking with me.
Yeah.
Because they feel that they can't have a conversation with me. And in fairness, that's fine. If you're that way,
right,
fine.
Right. Yeah, there is that kind of the childhood friends that are more almost like brothers than they are just friends of yours or whatever, that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you were, talking to the Pope the day before and Elon Musk the day before that. When you show up with them, you're just one of the boys, and you just want to hang out, drink some beer, tell some inappropriate jokes, and have a good time,
Exactly.
And that's what I try to tell people too, is like, obviously I'm the relationship guy. And so it's just like, yeah, but there's a lot of value in leaving, unhealthy or poisonous relationships. But whenever I give anybody advice around it, it's usually like, you don't have to make this decision to cut off people in your life as much as you need to make the decision to go get around better people. And if you do that more often than you make the decision to go hang out with the other people, then those people are probably not going to want to hang out with you that often. You know what I'm saying? Like if I make if instead of me saying like, I'm cutting you all off because I need better friends, it's more just like, I'm going to go on purpose, hang out with some of these people. And it's like, oh, these people hit me up and say, hey, let's go drinking on Saturday. And I'm at a business event in LA. Well, I can't go drinking with you guys on Saturday because I'm at a business event in LA and I'm hanging out with these other people who were talking about all these other goals and dreams and stuff. Well, the seventh time of that happening, these people are going to just kind of maybe not hit you up the next time. It happens naturally as you continue to level yourself up. I feel like you don't have to be an asshole and be like, nope, you guys are just not good enough for me. It's more just like, I'm making a decision.
But then everyone knows I'm a prick. Yeah. But you've always been exceptional. And I'll say this, and you can use this as a soundbite for anyone listening to this. You really are a master of relationships.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I've seen the way that you've always tried to push yourself. And here's the thing that I noticed about you. You've always tried to make sure that you are worthy of the relationship. A lot of people get into the relationship because, hey, it benefits me. Benefits me to know Elon Musk. It benefits me to know Steve SIMS. But you've always come across going, hey, what can I do to make me worthy of this relationship? How can I enhance how can I help introduce you to even this dinner series?
Yeah.
You're putting it on. You're the hostess with the mostest. But you're making sure that there are people in there that it's going to grow that relationship. I already know some of the people coming tonight, but I know that it's going to enhance my relationship. So you've always been a great conduit of making sure that the relationships that are around you are actually relationships and not connections, not business cards.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there, and we won't mention their names, and trust me, I really want to, because he's an arse and he knows who he is. But there are people out there that just think they're phenomenal connectors, and they really ain't. They just get the business card and think.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I also won't say.
We won't mention his name. But sadly, there's too many of them out there that don't understand what a relationship actually is.
Like you said, it's a huge difference between a relationship and a connection. A relationship is a two-way street.
Yeah.
Connection is a one-way. It's like, I have a connection.
It's a transaction.
Right. It's like, I'll only approach you if I have a deal, if there's something to be done. It's like, if it's a relationship, it's a two-way street. There's give and take. And if you don't have any value to offer to high-level relationships, you just don't get to stay around those people. There's too many opportunities for those people. So you have to come to the table with something.
And today we're not tolerant. Again, this is COVID. Today we're not tolerant. We're pissed off. We've been sold to. We've been lied to.
Yeah.
We've been conspiracy theories up the wazoo. We're annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And we see through those flaky, fake people real quick now.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I think we need to be more transparent. We need to relationships have to be worked at.
Yeah.
Anyone, I'm sure you've had arguments with your wife.
Yep.
But isn't that what makes the following day better?
Right.
Because you learn from it.
Right. And it provides a depth to a relationship that it can't be replicated with anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you get, whenever my wife and I have those types of conversations that turn into heated conversations that turn into arguments, it allows you to get to know that person more than, there's zero people on this planet that I know as well as her. And I'm sure she would say the same thing, but similar to you, we've been together since I was 16. There's every part of our adult lives have been lived together. Yeah. We've experienced the downs, the ups, the roller coasters, and we've had God knows how many difficult conversations that have left us both heated, especially because we both started our adult lives believing a certain thing about the world. And now we've come around to a completely different idea in terms of like religion and values and morals, and everything about us has completely changed in the last decade. Yeah. And to go through that requires many, many sleepless nights, difficult conversations if you're going to get through it. But if you get through it on the other end, it's like, well, there's zero other people in my life that I know that well. And when you, and to your point, it's like when we all get together and we get to have conversations, we get to hang out, or whether it's on, you know, some market in Phuket in a cowboy, do you remember that cowboy bar we sat at? Yeah. It was so wild. The only thing that looked familiar, it was just like, it was just like a random, it's this Phuket street market, which is a massive street market. Yeah. But then like in the middle of it was just this like 10 by 10, like probably from that wall to this chair, cowboy bar. And you, me, I think Francisco, somebody else is there. We just like sat bullshit for an hour, had 2 or 3 Thai beers, and went back to the spot. But like those are the types of things that really turn into like, oh, this is a friend of mine, rather than like, oh, I met him at an event once. You know what I mean? It's just such a massive difference between those two things.
It's a classic prairie dog. I don't do networking events.
Yeah.
But I remember I went along to this networking event, and this guy came over to me, and he starts talking to me, and he wanted a business card, and I don't have business cards. And so that was him done. He was just trying to get the business card. I was like, I don't carry business. Well, how do I get hold of you? You know, so and so. Oh, yeah, great. And as soon as he had got that, he was prairie dogging.
Next.
He was like, who else is in the room? Yeah. Like, yeah. Let me, I've got to get someone to introduce you. And he thought by that was the relationship. Well, if you have an empty relationship with that person, how can they introduce you to somebody?
Right.
You know, because you're coming in cold. Like if I turn around to someone I know and I go, you need to speak to Travis.
Yeah.
Or you, if you, like you have done, you got to speak to Steve. They know that there's a reason,
right? Because
you value relationships. But if this person's just doing it as a collection of business cards,
right?
It's an empty gesture,
right?
And it's read as such.
Yeah, you can't KPI the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, which is hard for some people to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about your book, and then we'll get you out of here. Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. When I saw that you wrote this, I was like, this is such a perfect topic for Steve to cover. There's very few people I think could cover it very well, and you're one of them because of where you came from and because of where you ended up. And if there's anything that I've learned about expanding the way that I think, it's that everything changes when you start thinking bigger. If you're thinking, how can we increase production by 5% this year, then it's probably by just doing a little bit more of the same that you're currently doing. But if you're thinking, how can we increase by 1,000% this year, you all of a sudden have to reinvent your business model. You have to reinvent your processes. You have to build technology that's innovative, that allows you to scale at that size. You have to meet somebody very, very important, or you have to, there's a big action that you're going to have to take that you would have never thought about or been forced to think about had you not started with this like ostentatious goal that seemed completely out of reach for yourself. What are, besides that, some kind of side effects or bonuses in your mind that's probably in this book about why it's important to go for these ridiculous goals?
Well, for a start, the title was one that we came up with probably about 18 years ago.
Okay.
It just never had a book attached to it. People used to come to us and used to go, hey, I want to do this. We'd be like, okay, great. We've got the request. Now, very similar to relationships. If I gave them what they asked for, yeah, I've just completed a transaction. And I'm the same as Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, no one has a relationship with Amazon. It's a transaction. Mm-hmm. So we always used to get these requests and we go, okay, how can we make this stupid?
Yeah.
We would never use the word impossible. You know, we would never recognize it. Take that. That's the Voldemort of words.
Right.
Take it out of your vocabulary. How can I make this laughable?
Yeah. Let's start with the assumption that it is possible.
But straight off the bat.
Right.
And you said about, what you can achieve. What do you know what you can achieve if you've never tried?
Right.
So we would, and here's the daft thing about stupid goals and kind of what makes them allowed. You're going to fail at 99.9% of them. So why not fail 30 times further than where you were going for?
Right.
See, everyone's going to turn around and go, oh yeah, I want this out of my life. It's that 5%. If I just crank this wheel a little bit,
right.
If you want to make $100,000 a month, go for 500.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Build a plan to achieve that 5. Build the systems that will achieve that 5. Get the team in place. that will achieve that 5 and fail and make 350. Every time I've gone for something, the story about Bocelli, okay? I had a guy that wanted an amazing dining experience. I could have gone on the Italian version of Open Table, picked up a major Michelin star restaurant, and then contacted him and got the chef to pop out and gone, it's so good to see you this evening. Please take a visit of my kitchen. And he'd have been happy with that.
Yeah. That was all he asked for, was an amazing dining experience. Wow. Okay.
That was it. I went there and I went, okay, what's the stupidest thing I can do with this? And if you're going to do something in Paris, where is obviously the most Parisian place in the planet that can only be in Paris?
The Eiffel Tower.
Bingo. All right. So we thought, what is the Eiffel Tower of Florence? Now, the Uffizi Galleria has loads of artwork. If you don't know about art, could be Amsterdam, could be Poland, it could be London, could be France. But the only thing that makes Florence is David. Michelangelo's David. The only piece of Michelangelo's work outside of Rome is housed in the Accademia di Galleria in Florence. Okay? The idea of having a dinner at the feet of the most famous statue in the world is a stupid goal. There's one to go for. Okay? The daft thing is, when you keep going for stupid goals, you start getting them.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We got it. And I literally went back to my hotel room and I was staying at the Savoy and I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Because I literally was thinking, well, when they say no, then I'll start with some backups.
Sure.
They said yes. Because I had literally, it become a habit of me asking for ridiculous goals.
Right.
That I started to get people to go, whoa, well, if he's asking, he must know what he's doing.
Right.
He must be, someone give it to him. Yeah. And they gave it to me. So I remember sitting there and I phoned up Claire, my wife, back here in LA, and I went, do you remember I said to you that stupid thing that I was, she went, oh yeah. And she actually said to me, so where are you going to try next?
Yeah. How colossal was the failure? Yeah.
Yeah. She said, where are you going to try next? I went, no, they said yes. She went, really great. Yeah. She said, that's brilliant. And of course, entrepreneurs, I went, but how can I make it better?
Yeah.
She's like, hang on a minute, you got the place you wanted. Yeah, I did. But I got 2 days before the dinner. How can I take it bigger?
Yeah.
And of course, when you think of if you think of Italy, the most famous person in Italy, the Pope, doesn't tend to do a lot of singing gigs. And the most famous Italian singer, Pavarotti, well, he doesn't get out much now since he died years ago. So the maestro himself, Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah.
And I remember contacting someone I knew in LA in the music industry. They gave me his agent in London. And when I said I want Andrea Bocelli to come into my dinner party and serenade my clients while they eat the pasta, he turned around and he said, sounds great, I'll get back to you. Hung up, he never took my phone number. So I knew I wasn't getting a call back. So then I'd already been working with some other people in Italy. I contacted them and I went, do you know Andrea Bocelli? And they went, yeah, we do. And I had to phone enough people that one of them said, yeah, I do. And I went, this is my stupid, over-the-top dining experience that can only be completed with the maestro himself.
Yeah.
I got a call back from Veronica Bocelli herself.
Oh, no way.
She went, it's in 2 days' time. And do you know the funny thing was, now, of course, there's always a payment that's got to be paid.
Of course.
You know? And once we'd all agreed on everything, I suddenly realized that America wasn't open. So for me to transfer the money, I was going to have to wait for the following morning. And then once they initiated it, it wouldn't land until the following morning, which is the morning after I need him. And I didn't have a credit card big enough for that balance.
Yeah, right.
So I contacted her and I went, I just realized you're not going to get the money until the following. So you kind of got to trust me.
Right.
And she said something that really made me feel good. She said, based on who called me, I think we can trust you. And I suddenly realized it wasn't the money. It was that relationship. Because of who had called her, and my standing joke was I had Bocelli on credit for the night. So, but it was all to do with relationships. Everything I had got, I had got based on relationships.
That's insane, man. I think that's why that story gets brought up so much, because it's like the pinnacle of everything that you talk about, which is let's start with something crazy and then let's go crazier and let's see if we can do all of it, and sometimes you fall flat. But like to your point, it's like if you're going to take 10 swings, that 9 of them are going to fall flat, at least the last one is going to be awesome. Like what I've found in just in a lesser example, but similar principle, is like getting guests for my podcast and stuff like that. A lot of times it's easier to get the biggest people than it is to get the medium level people, because the biggest people look at everybody down here as about the same to them. You know what I'm saying? Like if they're up here in terms of status, stature, influence, money, they don't need anything from anybody. They truly are in a fuck you position in life. Then like, they're not worried if they do something that's for this person or they do something for this person. It's all the same to them. It all exists in the same ecosystem. Whereas this person is worried about helping this person because they don't want to look too bad to this person. So they say no. You know what I mean? You just like, if I'm going to take the swings, I'm going to take the swings, and it never ceases to surprise me, the type and quality of people that are just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, just because you're willing to go for the ask.
It's the classic failure syndrome. If you know you're going to succeed, how many times does it matter that you failed?
Yeah.
Because you've only got to succeed at anything once.
Right.
Again, let's pick on Elon Musk. You've seen those rockets that used to come off of the side, the gas tanks basically off the rocket, and then they would land on the floating platform, tip over and explode. You remember seeing those? Everyone did, because it made news. When was the last time you saw it?
I don't know. It's been a while.
Been a while because it hasn't failed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make the news anymore.
Right.
As soon as I remember when, and I was, rolling around SpaceX when these conversations were happening, but they realized one of the most expensive things of a rocket was the fact that these massive great fuel cells would end up getting into space and then just become space debris. If we could get them back, fill them up, send them back up again, reusable gas tanks, whoa, saved billions. But they would go from outer space and landing on a floating pad in the middle of the ocean. That in itself is miraculous.
Right.
But then the gyroscope wouldn't work, it'd fall over and it would explode and everyone would mock him. Yeah. Oh, billions of dollars are gone. He only had to get it once right. You've never seen it since.
Right. Yep.
The fact is, a lot of people look at failure as a bad thing. I walked into a party up in London, and I won't mention his name because he's very famous. And we walked into this party. We'd gone up in the elevator. Doors opened up. We walked out, and he looked around the room, and he went, "Excellent. It's a room full of failures." And I was like, and some of the people in this room were like major influencers.
Evidently, like not failures.
By
some
definition. Of the most successful, powerful people in the planet. If I named a few of them, you'd be like, yep. And I was like, shit, that's a bit rude, a bit arrogant. And he looked at me and he went, no, you get it wrong, Steve.
Yeah.
This room is a room full of failures. They don't care. They keep going. And it was him that he turned around and he gave me the line that I use a million times. He said, they used failure to refine them, not define them. And every single person on the planet has gone through a series of failures. How many times have you fucked up and failed in your life?
Dozens.
Not enough. You're going to keep going. Right. And I am a serial failure. I live very well now.
Yeah.
I haven't got to worry about, paying the mortgage or keeping the lights. I ain't got to worry about that shit. But if I'm the exact same person this time next year, I would have wasted 12 months without trying. I have to try at things. I want to fail at things so I can go, oh, that's how it works.
Yeah, right.
And then you try again, it works. And you go, great, what's the next thing I can screw up? So I think failure should be invited. That's where the education is.
Steve, I mean, every time we talk, I'm just like, we could just keep talking and talking. So I'll have to cut it off now because we're getting together in a couple of hours from now anyway.
And
with
there's
the other
drink to be consumed.
There are drinks to be consumed. There's food to be consumed, and lots of good conversation, everything. So thanks again for coming on the show. If you have not yet, pick up a copy of Go for Stupid, Steve's most recent book, and then Bluefishing as well is still a great one. It's sold lots and lots of copies, translated into dozen plus languages, something like that.
It's 9 languages or something.
Yep, which is incredible, man. So thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for always being a good friend, and looking forward to tonight.
Look after yourself.